Happy Wednesday night to all of you out there in social media world. This is Brother Dana coming to you once again from Chicago. I'm just going to kick it off. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. I got a little talent maybe, but anyway, I know those words really, really well because that was a hymn that we sang frequently at church growing up. And that comes from the basis of John 13:35, where it says, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples." And that came from the mouth of Jesus. If you love one another. And I want to take a few minutes to really examine the Christian love that has been displayed to the world, to everyone, and see how much that resembles the real life of Jesus Christ and the principles of our value system as white, evangelical, Gentile Christians here in the United States of America. So before I talk about our Christian love, I wanted to bring up one of the enemies of Christianity and a religion that we so quickly degrade. And I want to break it from ISIS and Islamic terroristic deaths. ISIS, KKK, Islamic religion, Christian religion. So ISIS has claimed 1,200 total deaths across the globe. Islamic terroristic deaths, which according to the study, it would include 2, 3, or more deaths that took place due to Islamic or to a terroristic event. And so from the 1970s until present day, Islamic Muslim terrorists have claimed the lives of roughly 13,000 individuals. Not in the United States, that's worldwide. So let's bring together ISIS, let's bring together Islamic terrorist deaths from the 1970s until this present age, and we're looking at a little over 14,500 total deaths worldwide. Yeah, sounds bad, right? Well, I wanted to then, and now, I want to talk to you about American white evangelical Christian history when it comes to the love that we have displayed according to, again, our biblical beliefs. And I'm going to start only at the time of the slave trade because I'm narrowing this down to the events that have taken place since the birth of Christian America. And so when I looked at the first statistics, it said the death toll from the slave trade or the African Holocaust is 60 million dead at the hands of white Christian imperialism. 60 million. And then I looked at the Native American Indians that we killed to take this land in the name of Jesus Christ, and that was 9,700,000. Now I could easily stop right here, but I'm not. I'm going to move forward. And if you're watching this video, and if you are one of my so-called black brothers and sisters, who I do recognize you as who you really are, the true Hebrew Israelites, I want you to know I am not going very detailed. I am going to just bring some facts that are at the very, very top of the iceberg. And when I brought up to you about the 9,700,000 Native American Indians that were killed, I'm not even talking about the abuse that we dealt to both our African slaves and the Native American Indians at that time. Now, a personal story is I was a summer camp director in the northern part of Minnesota at a Bible camp. And every Friday we would venture into a neighboring Native American Indian reservation. And on Fridays, we would sit around a drum and we would talk, and the Native American Indian men would teach us and tell us some stories of their heritage and what took place. And they never left out a story, this one man. And the first thing he would do is he would show us his tongue, and you would see that there was a scar down the middle of his tongue. The story was that when he was a child and he was taken from his parents to a Christian refugee or a Christian school to learn the American white Christian ways, if they were caught speaking their native tongue, they were warned. The second time, their tongue was sliced down the middle, which his was. The third time, their tongue would be removed. I don't know. To my evangelicals that are watching this video, you probably think I'm lying or he is. So now let's go to our slaves. And I brought this information where it says slaves were punished by whipping, shackling, beating, mutilation, branding, and or imprisonment. Punishment was most often met out in response to disobedience or perceived infractions, much like today. But masters or overseers sometimes abused slaves to assert dominance. Pregnancy was not a barrier to punishment. Methods were devised to administer lashings without harming the baby. So slave masters would dig a hole in the ground deep enough for the slave woman's stomach to lie in the dirt, in the ground, so that they could proceed in the whipping and of the lashings. But such protective steps gave neither expectant slave mothers nor their unborn infants much real protection against grave injury or death from the excessive zeal or number of lashes inflicted. As one slave quoted, "One of my sisters was so severely punished in this way that labor was brought on and the child born in the field. This very overseer, Mr. Brooks, killed in this manner a girl named Mary. Her parents were in the field at the time. He also killed a boy about 12 years old. He had no punishment or even a trial for his murder." So you can see, even at the conceptualization, the beginning of our nation, to my Gentile evangelical believers, we haven't changed in the way that we treat our so-called black brothers and sisters. It's just the form and the way that we treat them has become more modernized. So I wanted to go from what we did to slaves, and now do understand that we molested and abused our slaves, and we even sexually abused our male slaves as a dominance in front of their children and family members and others from that plantation, as a way to show other males and those that we will do whatever we need to do to make you understand you belong to us. So raping a man in front of them dehumanized him as well as took away his masculinity. And they will know we are Christians by our love. So then I went to lynchings in the United States, and it says it rose in number after the American Civil War in the late 1800s and continues to this day. Lynchings were of African American men, but women were also lynched. The purpose was to enforce white supremacy and intimidate blacks through racial terrorism. Lynching is a hanging because hangings are what crowds of people wanted to see and are also easy to photograph. Some hangings were professionally photographed and sold as postcards, which were popular souvenirs in parts of the United States. Victims were also killed by mobs in a variety of other ways: shot repeatedly, burned alive, forced to jump off a bridge, dragged behind cars, and the like. Sometimes they were tortured as well, with body parts sometimes removed and sold as souvenirs. Lynchings were most frequent from 1890 to the 1920s, with a peak in 1892. Lynchings were often large mob actions attended by hundreds or even thousands of watchers. As in the case of Al Parsons, they were sometimes announced in advance in newspapers, and even in the instance of Fred Rochelle, with a special train. According to the Tuskegee Institute, 4,743 people were lynched between 1882 and 1968 in the United States. And I know that is not true because there's also been others that have been lynched even within the last few months. More than 73% of lynchings in the post-Civil War period occurred in the southern states. So why did I want to bring up this? Because our southern states gloat in being the what? The Bible Belt of the United States of America. And they will know we are Christians by our love. Here's some postcards. Here are some postcards that our Christian evangelical America that displays the love of Jesus Christ to the world actually is. That's how the world will know that we are Christians by our love. So let's go to blacks that are killed by police, today's modern lynchings. In 2015, there was 115. 2016, 88. 2017, 95. In the very few months of 2018, there was over 18. Wrongfully convictions of blacks, northern modern slavery, lynchings, all of that, modern day. Convictions of blacks from 1970 to 2016. The wrongful convictions of our so-called black brothers and sisters that we have wrongfully put in prison from 1970 to 2016 equals 20,000 years of life that has been taken from innocent black men and women. And you're right. They will know we are Christians by our love. I'm not going to go into all of the white evangelical Christian terrorist attacks that have taken place on this land towards our so-called black brothers and sisters, but I want to bring up to you Black Wall Street in June of 1921, which will forever be remembered as a day of great loss and devastation. It was on this day that this great white America experienced the deadliest race riot in the small town of Tulsa, Oklahoma. 94 years later, that neighborhood is still recognized as one of the most prosperous African American towns to this date, with hundreds, let's be exact, 600 businesses, 21 churches, 21 restaurants, 30 grocery stores, 2 movie theaters, 6 private airplanes, a hospital, a bank, and its own personal school system was in this Black Wall Street. However, on June 1st of 1921, Americans, white Americans, looted that city and destroyed it and burnt it to the ground. Am I lying? Well, let's look at some pictures. There you go. This was Black Wall Street prior to the white evangelical Christian terrorist attack on June 1st of 1921. Let's show you another picture of that city. And then let's show you, yes, a church. And how do we as believers, Jesus Christ, evangelicals, make news all the time about China and other countries and Islams and other religions burning down churches? But yet on our own property, we burnt down the churches of our own Christian black brothers and sisters. See, this was the city prior. That was the city after we got our hands on it. And take a look at that. And again, they will know we are Christians by our love. Have you ever heard, to my white evangelical believers, the Tuskegee Study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male? Well, let me tell you about it. This was an infamous and unethical clinical study conducted between 1932 to 1972 by the U.S. Public Health Service Well, what was this purpose? The purpose of the study was to observe the natural history of untreated syphilis. See, African American men in this study were told that they were receiving free health care from the United States government, a government that was founded on the principles of Christianity and the Bible. The Public Health Service started working on this study in 1932 in collaboration with the Tuskegee University, which is a historically black college in Alabama. Investigators enrolled in the study a total of 600 impoverished African American sharecroppers from Macon County, Alabama. The men were given free medical care, meals, and free burial insurance for participating in the study. Sounds good, right? The men were told that the study was only going to last 6 months, but it actually lasted 40 years. After funding for treatment was lost, the study was continued without informing the men that they would never be treated. None of these 600 men were told that they had the disease, and none were treated with penicillin even after the antibiotic was proven to successfully treat syphilis. But the study continued. Under numerous U.S. Public Health Service supervisors until 1972, when a leak to the press resulted in its termination on November 16th of that year of 72. The victims of the study, all African American, including numerous men who actually died of the disease, 40 wives who then contracted the disease, and 19 were born with congenital syphilis. 128 of those men died during the test of syphilis. Our love used them by injecting syphilis on them purposefully to see how it would kill them, while we came up with a vaccine, and even when we did, we let them die. Once again, they will know we are Christians by our love. In the United States, a common definition now of terrorism is the systematic or threatened use of violence to create a general climate of fear to intimidate a population or a government and thereby effect political, religious, or ideological change. Sounds exactly what we're still doing to this day, which was exactly what we did from the foundation. And how can a nation or a person change if they've never acknowledged and repented of the wrong that you do? And now I hear some of my evangelical believers saying, as they have to my so-called black brothers and sisters, get over it. Get over slavery. It was years ago. I had nothing to do with it. Well, my response to my evangelical Gentile Christians in America is, how do you get over something that has never yet ended? So my words to my fellow evangelical Christian, white Christian family members comes from Matthew 7:5, when Jesus said, "You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly take the speck out of your Muslim brother, your Islamic terrorist brother, your ISIS brother." Let's take the speck first. We have murdered millions of people to their less than 20,000. Now I hear some of my evangelical Christians saying, I never owned a slave. I never did anything wrong to a black person. Why am I responsible? Well, we hold all Christians responsible for allowing abortion or homosexuality. And we preach that if we don't change our ways, we will suffer in America just like Sodom and Gomorrah. So if I am held responsible for another person's behavior, whether they do an abortion or in a homosexual lifestyle, and I had nothing to do with it, then why do we as white evangelicals have nothing to do with what our forefathers did in destroying and murdering millions of so-called black brothers and sisters and Native American Indians? But in response that you never owned a slave, and I washed my hands of what my forefathers did, Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 9 says, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and to the fourth generation. Guess we can't use that excuse. But now I hear you saying, Dana, I'm in Jesus Christ. I have been saved. Well, that's fine. But then can you give me an explanation to why our Christian so-called black brothers and sisters who love Jesus Christ as much as you do are still suffering every single day? And that we sit back and we watch them being blown away? We watch and we see what I showed you, and many of you right now, your mind is saying, I'm a traitor, and all I'm doing is stirring up hatred towards Christianity and giving Christianity a bad name by bringing all this stuff up. Okay, I understand what you're saying. So let me go to Scripture. Proverbs 12 says, when you tell the truth, justice is done, but lies lead to injustice. I want to be like the Most High God. I'm going to be an individual that stands for justice and exposes the lies that leads to continued injustice to our so-called black brothers and sisters and to all the people that we have destroyed in the name of being a disciple of Jesus Christ, knowing or believing that they will know we are because of our love. Verse 26 of Proverbs 12 says, the righteous person is a guide to his friend, but the path of the wicked leads them astray. You say that all the time when you go to confront a homosexual or a person with abortion, that we must speak the truth in love so that we can set them free to repent and change of their wicked ways so they will not suffer at the hands of judgment of God. Does that exempt us for slaughtering and murdering millions and millions? I'm not talking about the rapes. I'm not talking about the molestations. I'm not talking about the ill treatments. I'm not talking about the false convictions. I'm not talking about all the minor, or not the minor, but the details of every single life that we have taken because of our hate. Ephesians 4:25. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. So tonight I'm going to close to really ask my white evangelical Gentile Christians, and they will know us by our love. That's what you call love? I get text message or emails saying I'm a race traitor. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll turn my back on any race that claims to be righteous and holy and examples of living and walking like that of Jesus Christ. And I will also call out that of a religion. Because let the truth be told, ISIS and Islamic terrorist deaths are maybe 15,000. Christian murders, deaths, and terroristic attacks are in the hundreds of millions. And they will know we are Christians by our love.